After Dragon Ball Super episode 52 wrapped up, I've seen a lot of people this week talking about how Dragon Ball Super and Toriyama ruined Gohan's character and that Gohan is always going to be a nerd. But did Dragon Ball Super really ruin Gohan's character? Let's go back and take a real good look and let's figure out exactly what's going on. From the minute that he burst out of that space pod and headbutted his uncle, we knew that Gohan had a secret power inside of him tied to his emotions. Throughout his upbringing, we see numerous examples of Gohan tapping into his emotions and thus tapping into a hidden power, whether it be with his fights against Vegeta or his fight against Frieza or even the climactic battle with Cell. Unless Gohan was really angry, he almost always had issues fighting. In fact, when you really think about it, had it not been for Goku dying and the incoming threat of Vegeta and Nappa, he probably would never even be a fighter because Piccolo essentially kidnapped him against his will after seeing that hidden power, and he wanted to harness it to protect the Earth. Had these events never happened, Gohan would have probably just been a scholar like Chi-Chi wanted. Gohan's entire motivation for fighting has always been down to its core, survival and protection of loved ones, which in many ways makes him a true alpha male. But the reality is, some people in the fan base think that Gohan should be just like Goku, but he's not. Goku and Gohan are two different characters. Gohan was thrust into battle out of necessity since he was a child. Meanwhile, Goku's entire upbringing as a kid, he loved to fight, he loved seeking out newer and greater challenges, he loved training with newer and better people and fighting the best that he could, which carried on into his adulthood. Go back to the fight with Nappa. Gohan continuously kept letting Piccolo down, and Piccolo had to die in order for Gohan to rage out and show some of that hidden power. Maybe it's because he's half human and he's not a pureblood like Goku and Vegeta, but Gohan never really liked to fight. In fact, there are only 3 or so examples that come to mind of Gohan actually enjoying the battle. The first one was that infamous scene in Wukong Hospital when Gohan actually yells at his mother for not allowing him to go to Planet Namek. But that's kind of an iffy one because I feel like Gohan was just trying to be responsible more so than just having to fight. Plus, he didn't know at the time that Namek was going to be filled with guys like Frieza, so he didn't even know there would be a battle. The biggest examples after this is when Gohan went SS2 against Cell and when he fought Super Buu. In both of those examples, Gohan actually took enjoyment in pummeling his opponent. In fact, he's kind of an idiot for doing so because he took so much enjoyment that both times it wound up backfiring on him. The first time with the loss of his father and Cell blowing himself up, and the second time with Buu absorbing Gotenks and then being too much for Gohan. I always saw these two examples as Gohan being so overwhelmed with this incredible power that he just wanted to mess around, and it's kind of a dumb thing to do. And to be honest, it is a little bit irritating that Gohan always has had these secret gifts, but he never really wants to use them. And that's the most infuriating part of Gohan's character. Without Piccolo and Goku giving this guy a swift kick in the ass, he dogs it. He slacks off. He doesn't really care about fighting. He doesn't have that fighting spirit and desire that some of the other characters had. Even though it's not explicitly stated, during the time before Mecha Frieza shows up, Gohan never trained. But what is stated is that during the 7-year time skip after Cell and before Buu, we know for a fact that Gohan slacks off and was surpassed by others. Without a possible looming threat on the horizon and Piccolo and Goku not there to motivate him and train him, Gohan just doesn't care. If you look at the very end of the manga, which does still take place after Super despite the inconsistencies, Gohan is a full nerd. From the end of the Buu saga and into the events of Dragon Ball Super, Gohan was never really motivated to fight. Daddy was back to life, he was the strongest guy with Vegeta, and any kind of threat that would come around, he wouldn't have to worry because Daddy would take care of it. During Dragon Ball Super's retelling of the events of Resurrection F, in the anime, Piccolo dies and Gohan is once again motivated to train. But all of a sudden, when the time comes for the Universe 6 tournament and Goku and Vegeta invite him to come, he's the only guy who can't make it because he's going to attend some kind of conference. Even though his wife is the daughter of the richest athlete in the world, Gohan sees fit to go back on what he said at the end of Resurrection F, going back on what he said and skipping out on a perfect opportunity to train with Goku, Vegeta, and the rest of those guys for this tournament. Gohan could have trained for this tournament and become ridiculously stronger. Vegeta himself even says that Gohan has the most potential out of all of them. But once again, he squanders it like he always has. Now, don't get it twisted. I do genuinely like Gohan as a character. He is a badass, but for different reasons. He's not a bloodthirsty fighter. He only fights when he has to, which I think is a very admirable, realistic human trait. And he sure as hell is a better family man than Goku. But this idea that Gohan is always supposed to be a bloodthirsty fighter just like his father, Gohan was never like that except for 2 or 3 times. Gohan being happier being a husband and father makes perfect sense with his character, because the reality is, had none of these threats happened in Dragon Ball Z, Gohan would have always been a nerd, and really, this is just life course correcting itself and Gohan being what he was always destined to be. I suppose in universe you could blame Chi-Chi for all this, but by now Gohan's a grown-ass man, fully capable of making his own decisions, and he is choosing to be a family man over fighting. If Trunks saw it at the end of Dragon Ball Super episode 52, everybody else should. One more thing before I go. There is a popular fan misconception that Toriyama had always intended for Gohan to be the main character, and that because of pressure from the fan base, he changed his mind and went back to Goku. This is 100% false. Toriyama has never once said this in any single legitimate interview he's ever done. The only comment he's ever made is that he felt that Gohan was not fit to be the main character and that Goku was more fit for it. And to be honest, it kind of makes sense, but there was absolutely no fan influence on Toriyama's decision. In fact, Toriyama has constantly said that he likes to do the opposite of what people think he's going to do. So the fans have had zero say in any decision Toriyama's ever made when it came to Gohan. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it was enlightening for you. Please share it out. Don't forget to subscribe to Geekdom 101 for more content like this. And just remember, if you're a Gohan fan, he's still a badass. He's just a different kind of badass from his father and from Vegeta. Thank you again. I'll catch you down the road.